Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you a little bit of Voxel Plugin. So this is a plugin for Unreal Engine 4 that lets you basically create voxelized terrain. And what's really interesting about this is that they just added support for landscape materials, and obviously in particular landscape auto materials. And well, I'm Joe Garth, creator of Brushify, so yeah, I thought that I'd give this plugin a try and just see what I can build with it, and maybe show you guys how you can use this plugin alongside Brushify to create your own voxel maps. So the first thing you'll want to do is head over to voxelplugin.com, and then you'll be able to hit download, and that will take you through to the Unreal Engine marketplace where you'll be able to buy the plugin. And actually there's a free version of this plugin which you can just immediately download for free and then try out, and that's the version that I'll be using today. So there is also a pro version, but the free version has quite a lot of features, and yeah, if you just want to try this out, I definitely recommend just grabbing the free one and seeing how it goes. So yeah, the update that just came out with this basically lets you use auto materials. So that's what we're going to try and do today. We're going to get Brushify loaded up with the Voxel plugin and get everything working. So I'm going to switch to Unreal. And what I've done is I've basically just created a new map that's basically empty. There's not much going on there. There's just a sky dome, which is just a default Brushify sky dome mesh, and a few different sort of basic lighting things. We've got light source, a post-process volume, and a skylight. And what I've got, if I go to Edit, Plugins, by the way, this version of the editor is 4.25. But you can see that here I've got in the plugins Voxel plugin free, and that one is enabled. So the Voxel plugin is enabled. So if I go to the Place Actors menu, which if I go to Window, Place Actors, make sure you click on that. I'll bring up this Place Actors menu. You can type in there Voxel, and you'll see that you've now got a bunch of different voxel actors which weren't actually there before, and these are actors that are created by the plugin. And the one that we're going to want to use is called, if you scroll right down to the bottom, Voxel World, and I'm just going to drag and drop that into the scene. And immediately you can see that what we've got is this sort of great big plane and sort of this tiling texture. So this is actually our voxel world. I'm going to set the location here to the defaults, 0, 0, 0 at the origin, just so that everything is nice and neat. And to actually sculpt this world, we can go up to the modes panel, go to voxels, which is now a new little mode that we've got, and you can see that there are now a bunch of different tools here. One for surface, smooth, you got a sphere tool for creating spheres. So I'm just going to go through each of these and sort of just play around with them. Very quickly I'm going to just start sculpting a surface here, just create some really cool organic shapes, and yeah, you can bring stuff up from the ground, and you can connect things together, and this is amazing just to be able to build these really weird looking sort of almost alien shapes, and it's all very rapid. Like, you can just do this in minutes. So yeah, but obviously the one thing that's not so great is that the texture is not really holding up. It's sort of a tiled texture, and you can see all this horrible nasty tiling and stuff. So this is where I come in. I thought, wouldn't it be great to be able to apply the Brushify landscape auto material to this? And to do that, it's actually very simple. I'm going to go back to select. I'm just going to save the level. And you'll notice that when you hit save for the first time, it will say that the voxel world save object is null. Do you want to create one, or maybe we'll lose some changes? So I'm going to say yes, I want to save my changes to my voxel world. So that's all the sort of voxel sculpting we've just done, and it'll prompt me to basically save a file called the voxel world save object. And this is really just a file that contains all of that sort of sculpting information that's in the voxel. So I'm going to save that now into my little voxel test level here that I've been kind of messing around with. I'm going to call this one Save Object 3, because I've did a couple of other tests in the past. So that's my voxel world saved. And I think now if I just jump into, yeah, I've got the third person game mode selected, so I can just jump into the game. Yeah, great. Now I can start to run around on my awesome little voxel object. Okay, so let's try applying the Brushify auto material to this object now. So we want to come down into the details panel here on the right side. Go to the details panel of your voxel world, and we're going to scroll down to where it says materials and material config. And by default, we've got this sort of, it's called Voxel Quixel 5-way blend thing, which I guess is some sort of simple triplanar material. But we would really want to get all of the sort of features of the Brushify auto material onto this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Content, Brushify, Materials, Landscape. And this is the usual sort of Brushify materials folder, and you'd usually get this MI landscape and you'd drag that onto the default UE4 landscape actor, and that would be the sort of, you know, usual workflow for applying Brushify to this. Now in this case that won't actually work, and if you do that, what will happen is you'll just get this sort of black, that's quite interesting, but you'll just get this sort of black shiny material. It's really cool to see the screen space reflections there. You'll get this very sort of like, yeah, shiny material. So what we'd want is to actually create something that's going to allow us to use this and sort of convert this normal landscape material into something the voxels can understand. So I'm going to right click and go to Voxel, and we're going to go to Voxel Landscape Material Collection, and I'm going to click that. And this is going to create something called the Voxel Landscape Material Collection. I'm just going to save it. You can call it whatever you like. Call it MI Landscape or something like that. And just click that and open it up. And then we're just going to drag the MI Landscape onto this material slot inside of there. And then just hit save. And immediately you can already see that we've actually got all of these layers that have just appeared, these sort of 12 layers. And inside of each of those, we can see all the usual Brushify paint layers. And they've all been nicely replicated for us to sort of use and paint down. So I'm going to close this down now, and I'm going to go back to the voxel world in the details panel, and I'm going to choose from the voxel material section, instead of material config RGB, I'm going to change that to multi-index. And now we've got back that sort of yellow material from before, but this time I'm going to drag our newly created voxel landscape material collection onto that. And bam, now we have the Brushify auto material in all of its glory with the voxel system. And I think it already looks really, really cool just out of the box. And I think the reason for that is because we've actually got triplanar mapping built into the Brushify auto material. So there isn't really much work that needs to be done on Brushify itself for this to work. If I jump into the MI landscape material for Brushify, and if I scroll down and disable the triplanar mapping, it's just right here, triplanar, and you can just untick it. And you can see how stretched and ugly that looks without the triplanar mapping applied. But just ticking this box, bam, suddenly we have this nice looking triplanar mapping, and everything looks really nice, and there's no vertical stretching anymore on any of the slopes. So yeah, I really think that I got quite lucky here because I just implemented triplanar mapping in the last release of Brushify, and yeah, just surprisingly it works very, very well with this voxel system. Another thing is that all of the other material features of Brushify also seem to work just fine. So if we go into the distance tiling, for instance, we can change the tiling there, and it all just functions exactly the same as it would on a landscape actor, which is really, really impressive. You know, I've got the reduce tiling function. You see all this tiling here going on. If I tick that box, reduce tiling, that's working perfectly, that feature, to reduce the tiling on the map and make it look a little bit more seamless. And of course, the actual slopes system is working as well. So, you know, if I change this to different slope amounts, we can actually alter the slope and where slopes kind of appear. So if we want it to be that there's more rock or less rock, or you know, just how much of the rock actually appears, how much of the grass appears, at what sort of angle, you know, does the rock start to come in. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave that the default because I think that already looks pretty solid. You might notice the only thing that is really missing is the procedural grass types, and those aren't spawning. And I actually looked into this and asked the creator about this, and he told me that the Pro version has a procedural spawning sort of system, and they're actually looking into doing a sort of converter of the usual grass type system so you can convert that system across. I'm just going to do a little bit more sculpting here and use the tool to create some interesting shapes. So let's make this brush a little bigger. Let's start modeling some some crazy mountains and stuff. Little mountains and cool shapes. That's what I want to make. What's cool as well is that this is all pretty solid, and even though I'm actually sculpting really large sections in real time, it does appear that it's not that hard to work with. It's not too laggy or anything like that. And if you sculpt smaller amounts, it's basically real time. So I really think that they've managed to optimize this system very well. So that's sort of like the usual sculpting brush. You can, you know, just sculpt up and down, just like on the normal landscape. If you scroll down to the bottom as well, you can see there's this mask function. And in the Pro version, although I don't have it right now, you can actually sculpt using the Brushify alpha brushes. So you can use this basically exactly the same as you would the alpha brushes in the landscape auto material. So yeah, it's at some point I'll probably pick up the Pro version and try that out. But yeah, you can basically switch between the 4 different channels, R, G, B, A, and you've got the Brushify brush. Just drag and drop that in, and I presume that would work pretty well. So yeah, I'll definitely be trying that in the future. And yeah, so you've got surface sculpting, which is basically that sculpting brush. You've got smooth. With this one, you have to be careful because it will smooth very, very rapidly if you have it on the default settings. I had to sort of crank that really far down because if you look, it's really strong. So I find that really low values on this worked really nicely, especially if I had something like this. You know, if I had a shape where I'd done something really detailed and kind of, you know, spindly. If I wanted to basically like reduce this and make it a little bit less bulbous, you can see how strongly it affects things. So bring the number of iterations down and the strength down, and then I think I'll even go lower, and then it's a lot more easy to handle. So this is great for just refining and sort of smoothing out any jaggies, any jagged bits that give it away as something that's, you know, sort of low poly, or, you know, that it's actually voxels. So smooth is a really great brush. What else we've got? We've got mesh, and this is where you can actually drag in a mesh, but that also uses the Pro version. Sphere. This one is really cool because what I can do is I can basically build this massive, almost like if you ever saw the movie Arrival or something like that, almost looks like a massive alien dome. Yeah. And then I can put a slightly smaller one. Let's do that. Maybe even a bigger one. Bam. Okay, so I've got my big domes. And then, you know, because these are voxels as well, I can actually sculpt into this object. So I can actually create a little cave. Let's kind of build like a cave entrance here. So that's the cave entrance. Now let's go even deeper into the cave. Let's make an actual cave here where we can get lost inside. It reminds me of the game Red Faction, It's a very old game, but the first game actually had a proper voxel system that let you do stuff like this on the multiplayer, and it was just absolutely amazing to be able to use the rocket launcher to kind of, oh yeah, we've broken through, and and we've actually gone upward in the cave. So I didn't realize I was doing that, but now I've actually gone sort of upward inside this cave and created this whole, woo, we can go all the way out and all the way in. Yeah, we've created this entire thing. And you know, obviously we can make a bridge now across here, and then we can keep going into this into this sphere. Maybe we can go down a bit to the other side, and obviously you could spend as long as you want, you know, sculpting this stuff. Have to be careful not to go underground now, but yeah, you can actually go clip outside and see what it is you're doing. I'm gonna go a bit further down into the ground, and look, I've made it out of the other side now. I can use that to kind of build a little bit more of a even ground that we can get out of. So now I want to sort of jump into the game and preview this. One thing to note is whenever you want to preview things in the voxels, just hit save, Control S, and make sure you come off of the editor mode for voxel editing, and that way you'll be able to jump into it. If you don't do that, if you're just stuck in this one and you hit play, you'll fall straight through the world. So just something to be noted. Just go to select first and then hit play. And then yeah, we can now start to run through our newly created cave system. And let's have a look if we can get across, sort of traverse all the way through it. That's really cool. And this takes just minutes to, you know, just have fun and mess around. I'm going to create a little bridge here. Just going to jump out. Let's make a cube. Drag a cube in there. Make it a little bit bigger. A little bit longer. And let's just throw that cube. I'm going to turn off the snapping because I don't need that. Let's just put this cube here. Yeah. Okay, now we've got a little bridge. I don't like that it's white. I want to make it darker looking. So, just me being picky about things. Let's change this to something a little darker. Basic shape material. Let's turn this gray. And then save it. Now we've got a new little material there that's going to help me to make things look a little bit more. There we go. Okay, cool. So now I've got a little footbridge that I can go across from one sphere to another with, and then we can just walk all the way down and out of this sphere here. So yeah, it really is the ultimate sort of prototyping terrain tool. It's very, very cool to be able to make caves this way. And yeah, I really can't wait to try out the pro version, because I think some of those features would be really cool and game changing, like the ability to sculpt alpha brushes and do all that stuff. Another thing that's also really cool when you're sculpting out caves, I think, is when you get a sort of situation like this, where if we take this and sort of tunnel up this way, let's make a bit more of a hole, and eventually you'll get out of the cave, and then you've got this cool situation where, I'm just going to turn down the brush size, where it starts to look really natural when you kind of create little holes in the cave. I don't know why, but there is something about that sort of natural feeling of creating holes in the cave. And let's make that a little bit bigger. Let's maybe make that a big hole, and then we can smooth out the parts that are a little bit jaggy. But it's cool because it just looks really natural when you Looks really natural when you do that. Oh, there's a little hole. Ooh. Lots of cool ideas can come to you when you are sculpting voxels, I think. Let's try and get the light there. That's cool. Can make a skull shape, you know, to ward away future explorers. Let's do that. Let's get to the end of this cave and then let's make a skull. Some sort of eyes for a skull. Am I gonna get to the end of this cave? Oh yeah, there we are. I got there. Evil looking skull shapes. It's Halloween soon, so we have to get ready. Gotta do our part. Let's make the nose here. This is the kind of thing that if I were a pirate, I'm not saying I am, but this is the kind of thing that if I were a pirate, I would be making in this cave. So I'm not really getting through there very quickly. I'm gonna make a little bit more of a hole. I've only got one nostril. I need another one. Let's get to the end of that. Oh yes, there we go. So we've got kind of like an evil looking skull thing going on now. Very ominous. It's very dark and evil. Imagine if you were an explorer and you came through here, and then we could put some booby traps on the ceiling, and yeah. Another thing that is really cool is the flatten tool as well, which you can just you can tick this fixed rotation. So if you don't tick it, you'll get it sort of flattening to the normal that you click on, the sort of the angle that you click. And if you tick fixed rotation, you can get that so that it fixes the rotation to a flat angle. So if you just want to flatten out an area like this one, we can just make sure that we flatten it all to a, yeah, something like that. And turn down the strength a little bit. So yeah, now we've got a really nice sort of stable area that we can start to design around. Our evil skull room. Dead men tell no tales. And well, what else can we do here? We can actually bring in some light as well, because that's the cool thing. We've got these holes, but you know, this is all still dynamic lighting. So I'm just gonna get the sun object here, so it's in the same viewport. So it's in my viewport, and I can actually move the sun around and decide where the light's gonna fall. So I'm sure you could do something really cool with this, creating interesting looking lighting. And of course you can also use volumetrics as well. So if I take the exponential height fog, let's throw that into the scene, and maybe we can go crazy with the fog density here and kind of tweak things around. Let's see how much fog density we have to add for it to really make a difference. Oh, that's a lot. Okay, let's go back to our skull cave, if I can find it. I don't want to have lost my cave. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so yeah, it's somewhere up here. Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to put a bit more density here. And I'm going to turn on volumetric fog as well. There we go. That's nice. And then let's go crazy with the density. Yeah, something like that. Maybe we can turn down... Not the in-scattering color, actually, let's keep that high. The albedo we can turn up. Maybe we can make that a little bit orange. Saturate a little bit orange. Let's tweak the scale on that. Okay, that's cool. And then I think we really just need to control like the sun intensity so that we get more sun coming in. Okay, cool. And that's really nice. So you could get these shafts of light coming through. God rays. That's really what you want when you're in a cave. Let's reduce that a little bit. And I'm going to go into the post-processing and just tweak some settings with the exposure a little bit as well. I'm going to switch it to manual mode and then turn it onto the right setting there so that there's the correct amount of compensation. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put this one here. And then I'm going to go to the post-processing volume and maybe let's increase just a tad the contrast. Okay, looks cool. We can also, you know, go in and decorate some of this stuff as well. Like we can go in and put in some of my cliff meshes and other stuff. So I've got these rocks. This is the sort of basic rock that comes with every Brushify pack. It's really like a simple photogrammetry rock. And you even get this with the environment shaders pack. But it's a very useful one actually, so you could use this to decorate the rock walls and give the scene a little bit more detail. So if you find like an edge like that, maybe you can just, yeah, do something like that, basically. And I just work like this for the most part. I just create random stuff and then refine it. So at the moment it's all random, but later on I'm gonna, you know, I could make it more interesting. It's definitely cool to be able to do this. Let's maybe move this down. Oh yeah, something like that. I think with placing this kind of geometry and stuff is always about like hiding seams. So like if you see a seam like this, you can just cover that up by throwing another entity over it or an object over it, trying to hide things. That's always the nature of real time, is that you're always kind of faking a little bit and hiding a little bit. Another thing that can help a lot when you're hiding stuff in caves is ambient occlusion. So if I go to the post process here, ambient occlusion, just make sure you have that one dialed in to the right amount, because without it you can see that you see all of these little issues, but with it you start to get a little bit more of a seamless look. So not too much, but just enough that it covers up super obvious seams. And yeah, that's sort of how I would approach something like a cave with this voxel system. Let's maybe put like a rock, because you know what's missing is that there's not like a cool little rock to hit the light, you know, like a kind of sword in the stone rock that yeah, like this one. That's what it needs. It needs something like that. Yeah, some kind of sword in the stone rock. You know what I mean, right? Like it's like a sword that basically goes and the top of the rock, like it's something that is iconic in a way. Maybe you don't know what I mean, but yeah. Let's see if I can just keep making little shapes here. Okay, cool. We are getting somewhere now. It looks pretty cool and looks quite convincing as a cave goes. I actually like how that looks there. Even though that is just like the usual texture on a voxel, it just looks fine. Some things you don't need to refine or change. Yeah, so you know what I would do here, yeah, shove a sword in that rock. Maybe decorate up the floor a little bit more here. Just copy paste the same rock over and over. And by the way, if you are interested in the more sort of artistic side of things and like how I do the art side of things, my new Learn Squared course just came out. So little plug there for my latest course. If you want to see me put together sort of full environment scenes and that kind of stuff, you know, and go really in depth and just watch how I do things and how I make things really quickly and learn all my sort of little tricks. Because, you know, in these YouTube videos, I do like to, you know, show things, but, you know, it's really hard in a YouTube video to put the amount of depth into something. Like, I can show you me working on a scene like this, but, you know, I can't show you the full sort of length of working on a sort of 10-hour long project in, you know, in the small sort of half-an-hour YouTube video. So yeah, if you are interested in those kind of artistic things, then yeah, take a look at that. I'm just going to finish up this scene and then use this as the thumbnail for this YouTube video, I think, because I think it does look, well, it looks okay. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on it though, because that's what this is all about. It's all supposed to be for like prototyping and that kind of stuff. I actually don't want the grass to show up here, so I'm just going to go into my landscape and I'm going to change the slope angle to not 0, but the other way around, -10. Yeah, there we go. So now my cave is all nicely rock. And maybe a bit of vignetting. Vignetting always helps a little bit when you are out of ideas and you want to make something that looks a little bit more focused. Where is vignetting? Oh yeah, here, image effects, vignetting intensity. Just bump that up a little bit. It's good because it can just help to make the cave a little bit darker and give it a little bit of this kind of darkening effect. I'm going to put the chroma shift on a little. But yeah, and so in Learn Squared, I go through all of these sort of effects and, you know, how they all work and like how you can get the most out of them and all that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in that kind of thing, it might be worth checking it out. And yeah, this is Voxels in Unreal Engine 4. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and catch you next time. Cheers.